Welcome back, third graders. This is Mrs. Duke.
And Mrs. Tufaro.
And now we're going to share with you a narrative poem. So this poem is telling a story. It's called The Mysterious Egg. And the first time we're just going to read it for enjoyment. The farm slept through the gusty storm, all tucked away inside and warm, while rafters shook and hinges squeaked, shutters banged and branches creaked.
The night was dark, the wind blew strong. A little egg was blown along. Small and silent, round and white, it rolled up
to the barn that night. Bright sky, pink clouds, the rising sun. Rooster called, the morning's come. But then he noticed things amiss. He crowed, surprised, whose egg is this?
The chickens cackled from their pens. If there's an egg, it's from us hens. Don't be so quick, said goose and duck. Perhaps that egg is mine, they clucked.
Cow yawned and stretched and rolled from bed. I might have lost an egg, she said. Then Rooster crowed, whose egg are you? The little egg gave not a clue.
The chickens ran to clean the roost. I'll dig up tasty slugs, said Goose. And while Duck fixed up the beds of reeds, Cow polished, vacuumed, dusted, sneezed.
Then all raced back to wait and see, each wondering, will it look like me? Small and silent, round and white, the egg held to its secret tight.
I think the egg looks,
Sorry.
I think the egg looks very goosey, Goose declared. I'll name it Lucy. But Duck believed the shape so neat was just the space for two webbed feet.
The chickens fluttered in a snit. That egg says hen all over it. Cow, unsure of what to do, she said she thought she heard it moo.
They huddled up all close together. No one moved, beak, hoofed, or feather. Small and silent, round and white, the egg was
watched all through the night. Then clunk, then crunch, then crackle crack, then wiggle, waggle, woggle whack, and then a snap, the eggshell spread. Out popped a baby turtle's head.
They clapped and hugged and named her Sue. She loved her roost and learned to moo. She found those slugs the best to eat and thought her bed of reeds a treat.
The mystery's solved, the story's done. The egg belonged to everyone. So let's go back to the very beginning and look at the lines. So if you notice off to the side, the first line has a 1 right here beside it, but then the other lines, there are no numbers. And then you get down to line 5, and then it skips to 10. So what the author or the poet did was they numbered only certain lines. So if we want to, we can fill in with our pen or pencil the rest of the lines. So let's count them together. So that's 1,
2,
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Let me move this down. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, sorry, covered my screen up.
29.
30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48 lines in this poem. Now, do you see how when we were counting, we didn't stop and start back over with one after each stanza break? We just kept the lines, we kept counting as we were going. So even though we stopped at 42, then we had to keep counting, and you don't count the breaks. Mrs. Tufaro, do you want to count the number of stanzas and I'll move this down?
Yes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh. 5 is at 20. 6, 7, 8 stanzas at the number 30. So where that is 8. Oh, it's hard to do on here.
I know.
Yeah. This is 9 where it has a 35. 10, 11, 12, 13.
There are 13 stanzas in this poem. Good job. Okay, so now let's focus on some new vocabulary words to expand your vocabulary. If you look at stanza 1, you'll see the word gusty. The farm slept through the gusty storm. Use your context clues. What do you think the word gusty means?
Well, when looking at the whole stanza, it continues and says, all tucked away inside and warm, while rafters shook and hinges squeaked, shutters banged and branches creaked. So I know that outside it's very loud and windy. So when it says gusty, I'm thinking very loud, windy, large windstorm.
Right, very strong winds. Good job. Okay, now let's go down to stanza 3 and look at line 11. But then he noticed things amiss. What does the word amiss mean?
Well, I definitely think that word's a little harder to figure out, but if you continue reading, but then he noticed things amiss. He crowed surprised. Whose egg is this? Because he's like unsure of something and surprised about this egg that all of a sudden shows up. I'm thinking the word amiss means, but then he noticed things amiss, like things different, things not normally the same.
Right, not quite right. Exactly right, Mrs. Tufaro. Okay, so let's go on down to line 21. The chickens ran to clean the roost. What is a roost?
I'll dig up tasty slugs, said Goose, while Duck fixed up a bed of reeds, cow polished, vacuum, dusted, sneezed. So I'm thinking a roost is where the chickens live, maybe like their home almost, their place they live, home.
Right, it's where birds live. Good job. So let's move on down to our next page and look at, oh, did I skip one? Let's look at line 32. The chickens fluttered in a snit. What is a snit?
This reminds me of a word my mother would use growing up. So let's see, the chickens fluttered in a snit. That egg says hen all over it. Cow, unsure what to do, said she thought she heard it moo. So I'm thinking when he snit, he's like, It's mine. Like, I don't know how to, like, quick to answer maybe.
Like irritated.
Irritated, yes.
Irritated. Yes. Very annoyed. Yes. Okay, nice job. So let's go back and reread this poem one more time. And as we're reading, what I want you to do is I want you to listen for our 5-finger retell. So listen for who are the characters, the setting, the conflict, some important events, and the resolution. So as we're reading, that's what you're going to be listening for. All right, Mrs. Tufaro, are you ready? The farm slept through the gusty storm, all tucked away inside and warm. While rafters shook and hinges squeaked, shutters banged and branches creaked.
The night was dark, the wind blew strong, a little egg was blown along. Small and silent, round and white, it rolled up
to the barn that night. Bright sky, pink clouds, the rising sun. Rooster called, "The morning's come." But then he noticed things amiss. He crowed, surprised, "Whose egg is this?"
The chickens cackled from their pens. "If there's an egg, it's from us hens." "Don't be so quick," said Goose and Duck. "Perhaps that egg is mine," they clucked.
Cow yawned and stretched and rolled from bed. "I might have lost an egg," she said. Then Rooster crowed, "Whose egg are you?" The little egg gave not a clue.
The chickens ran to clean the roost. "I'll dig up tasty slugs," said Goose, while Duck fixed up a bed of reeds. Cow polished, vacuumed, dusted, sneezed.
Then all raced back to wait and see, each wondering, "Will it look like me?" Small and silent, round and white, the egg held to its secret tight.
"I think the egg looks very goosey," Goose declared. "I'll name it Lucy." But Duck believed the shape so neat was just a space for 2 webbed feet.
The chickens fluttered in a snit. "That egg says hen all over it." Cow, unsure of what to do, she thought she heard it moo.
They huddled up all close together. No one moved, beak, hoofed, or feather. Small and silent, round and white, the egg was.
Watched all through the night, then clunk, then crunch, then crackle crack, then wiggle, waggle, woggle whack, and then a snap, the eggshell spread, out popped a baby turtle's head.
They clapped and hugged and named her Sue. She loved her roost and learned to moo. She found those slugs the best to eat and thought her bed of reeds a treat.
The mystery solved, the story's done. The egg belonged to everyone. Okay, and this poem to me also, Mrs. Tufaro, had some great stanzas where you could visualize what was going on. You got the feeling of how those animals were kind of protective of the egg, even though they didn't know what was growing inside it. So let's look at our 5-finger retell. Who are the characters in this poem?
Well, we have, I can go in a row. We have an egg, which ends up being the turtle is a character. We have the chickens, the ducks, the goose, the cow. Did I miss anybody?
I think you got them all.
I think I did.
Yep, I think you got them all.
Okay.
Okay, the setting, this one's very easy. The setting takes place in a farm or on a farm in a barn because if you look at the very first stanza, they're all tucked away inside and warm. So they're inside the barn and it takes place on a stormy night.
So the setting can be the place as well as time of day. So night was dark, tells us what time of day it was. And farm is part of the setting. So the farm, the barn, night, let's see. I thought there was one more we can even say. That's good.
Let's
Oh,
see.
and in morning, there.
And
So
then,
it's night and morning was part of the setting.
yep. Okay, so the conflict. What is the conflict of the mysterious egg?
Well, I think the conflict is who is inside the egg and who it belongs to. And they didn't know that in the beginning. They all want to claim it for their own, but they don't know. So I would say that is the conflict of this narrative poem, figuring out who the egg, who owns the egg and what's inside the egg.
Excellent. Okay, so now we have important events, and we told you in maybe it was weeks 4 and 5 to focus on events that happen in the beginning and the middle of the story. So what are some important events that happened the beginning and the middle of the story?
I think the first major event is that the little egg was blown along in line 6. Like, why did this egg just blow on into the barn? So I would say that's a major event that happened.
Right. And then I think another or some more important events are that each animal wanted to explain why the egg belonged to them. And we know that cows do not lay eggs, but the cow really wanted a part of this. So that's another important event, is that each character wanted to state why they thought the egg was theirs.
And I think the next event that is kind of important is that they all wanted, not only that they wanted to take ownership and get everything ready for the birth of this egg, for the hatching of this egg. So they got the roost clean, they got slugs to eat, they got a bed ready, and just cleaned up and got ready for the egg to arrive.
Yep. And here, even in line 24, cow polished, vacuumed, dusted, and sneezed. So they all did their part. And then the resolution was very easy. And I thought this was a great ending to the story, that the egg belonged to everyone. So they all did their parts to get ready for the egg. They all believed it was theirs before it ever hatched. But then at the end, they all came together and that they agreed that the turtle belonged to them all.
I think it's also always important to point out, Miss Duke, is that we said the conflict was that we didn't know who owned this egg, who the egg belonged to. So conflict at the end has to be resolved. So you can always go back and forth. And if you can't, sometimes if you can't figure out, oh, there's a lot of problems that happen in a story, well, at the end, however it resolved, that's how you can sometimes connect the two and see that, yes, I got the conflict right and the resolution, because they connect close together.
Excellent.
So I love that it belonged to everyone. That is such a sweet. Now, I also, the author's purpose, Ms. Duke, what's the author's purpose in this one?
The author's purpose was to entertain us. But there were some parts in here where you could truly learn. So you learned that birds live in a roost. So there were some educational parts of this poem as well. But I really think that the overall author's purpose was to entertain us.
Yeah, and I also want to say that entertained, and it was so humorous, because when I laughed out loud, you might have heard me, is that when the cow said, "Oh, that might be my egg," I was like, "Huh? A cow and an egg?" I just started giggling over here when you read that part.
Yes, this was my favorite, line 34 and 35. Cow unsure of what to do, she said she thought she heard it moo.
Yes, that let me laugh too. That was a good one.
And that was another great thing, that you could visualize after you learned that a turtle popped out. You saw the baby turtle's head. Could you really see it mooing? So I thought this was very cute. And boys and girls, I will add this to our parent material guide, so that if you want to read this to practice your fluency, this will be available for you to read as well. So I hope you've enjoyed our poetry lessons. And look forward to hearing all about the poems you're reading at home. And if you want to share those with us on Seesaw, we would love to see them. Bye.
Bye, everybody.